Hi everyone, I'm going to be going over expected rate of return, weighted beta, and WACC today. And hopefully this Excel spreadsheet will help you guys study for the test on Monday. The first one I'm going to be going over is expected rate of return. A lot of these are set up like we did in class, so hopefully they're just a reminder for you. Okay. So for expected rate of return, we have our three possible scenarios. The best scenario, the most likely, and the worst. And we also have the probability for each scenario. And the probability will be given on the test. So let's say for our best scenario, we have a probability of occurring at 25%. Okay. And the most likely will be 50%, and worst will be 25. Okay. The return for each scenario, and again, these will be given on the test. For the best scenario, let's say we have a return of 20%. For the likely scenario, we have a return of 12%. And worst scenario, 2%. Okay. So for the weighted return, the only thing we have to do is we just multiply the probability of each scenario by the return. So for the best scenario, it would be this 0.25 times 20%. And we get a weighted return for the best scenario of 5%. Okay. The likely scenario, the most likely scenario, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply the probability times the return. Okay. And for the final, the worst return, we just take the 0.25, same thing, times the return for each scenario. And we get 0.5%. Okay. And to find the expected rate of return, all we have to do is sum these three numbers up. So I'm going to go to an auto sum those up for you. Okay. And we get 11.5% as our expected rate of return. And that's it. That's all you have to do for expected rate of return. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Okay. The next one we're going to go through is weighted beta. Now with weighted beta, you have your stocks in the portfolio, and these are some of the stocks I picked out. I picked out Sprint, Boston Beer Company. They make Sam Adams. Coca-Cola, Dresser and J.C. Penney. Okay. So the percentage of each portfolio, or the percentage of each stock in the portfolio for Sprint is going to be 20%. Boston Beer is going to be 10. Coca-Cola is going to be 30. Dresser is going to be 25%. And J.C. Penney is going to be 15. Okay. And those should total up to 100%, which they do. Okay. The betas for each stock, and again, these betas are found. You can go on to Yahoo Finance, Morningstar, and pick these betas out. And I looked at these this morning, and the beta for each of these stocks, respectively, Sprint is 1.05, Boston Beer is 0.7, Coca-Cola is pretty low at 0.42, Dresser is 1.12, and J.C. Penney is 1.83. That's pretty high for a retailer. Okay. And next step is we have to compute the weighted beta for each stock. So this is pretty much similar to calculating the expected rate of return. You're going to multiply this percentage here, it's 20%, times the beta for each stock. Okay. So for Sprint, you just take the 20 times 1.05 and you get 0.21. Okay. Boston Beer, do the same thing. You take the percentage of portfolio in each stock, so the 10% times 0.7. Okay. And we do the same for Coca-Cola, Dresser Rand, and JCPenney. So I'm just going to pull those down for you. Okay. So Coca-Cola had a weighted beta for the stock of 0.126, Dresser Rand was 0.28, and JCPenney was 0.27. Okay. And to find the beta for the portfolio, all you're going to do is sum up these weighted betas for each stock. Okay, so again, I'm going to use the sum function in Excel, and we get 0.96. Okay, that's not bad. A little under 1. Okay, if you're getting anything crazy like a beta of 10 or a beta of, I mean, anything above 3, you should be worried. Okay, something's wrong. Anything, I mean, there shouldn't be negative betas. I mean, even though we found some, according to Investopedia, they don't exist. So if you're getting anything less than a -1, then that's a problem as well. Okay, so that's the weighted beta. And the final calculation we're going to have to do is weighted average cost of capital. Okay. Now, for weighted average cost of capital, there's two sources of capital. We have debt, so that's something like your bonds, forms of long-term debt, and equity, so stock, so common stock, preferred stock. Okay. So first thing we have to do is figure out the capital structure. And I have some information on the right-hand side over here. We have $20 million in bonds outstanding, and that would be our debt. And as far as equity, we have 6 million common stock shares outstanding at $5 a share. Okay? So, if we have 6 million shares at $5 a piece, we have total equity of 30 million. Okay? I'm just gonna Okay. And all that is, I'll put it in parentheses, is the 6 million shares times the price per share, which is $5. Okay. Okay, so our total capital structure then would be, get rid of that. I'm just going to turn it into 30 million. Okay. So 30 million is equity. And we have debt of 20. So total capital structure, all we have to do is sum debt and equity together, and we get 50 million in total equity. Okay. So to find the percentage of capital structure for debt, all we would do is divide the 20 million divided by 50, and that will give us our capital structure for debt. So it should be 0.4, and for equity, we're going to do the 30 million divided by the 50 million, and we're going to get 0.6. Okay, so that is our capital structure. That's all you have to do. Okay. Now the next thing we have to do is figure out the cost of capital by the structure. Okay. And let's say for debt, again use the right hand side, debt, the yield on our bonds is 5% currently. Okay. Now for debt, we also have to take in that tax shield. Okay. Remember, our equation for the cost of capital by structure is the return, so the 0.05, which is the yield for the bonds, times our tax shield, so 1 minus 0.35. Our tax rate is 35%, as it says on the right hand side, and that should give us, okay, and that gives us our cost of capital by structure. Okay, so always remember that tax shield, so it's 1 minus the tax rate. In this case, the tax rate is 35%. Equity cost of capital, I'm not going to compute it using CAPM, but you always do compute the cost of capital using CAPM. We're going to say the cost of capital is 6%. Okay, so 0.06. Again, that would be computing using CAPM. Okay, so that's the risk-free rate plus beta times the risk in the market less the risk-free rate. And again, for the cost of capital by using equity, we don't take into account the tax shield. Okay, so don't include the tax shield in equity. That's only in debt. Final thing we have to do is compute the weighted cost of capital, and all we're going to do for that is multiply the capital structure by the cost of capital for debt, and we're going to get a little over 1%. And then for equity, we're going to do the same process. We're just going to multiply the capital structure percentage by the cost of capital. Okay, and we get a little above 3.5%. And to compute the WACC, all we have to do is sum these two numbers up. So I'm going to go use that auto sum formula. Oops. Auto sum those up. And we get a weighted average cost of capital of about a little under 5%, so 4.9%. Okay. And that's it. I hope this was helpful to you guys, and study hard for your test.